I'm Charles Dennis. This is Paid to Dream, and my good friend Ed Begley Jr. is on the other end of the line. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever we are now.
Charles, great to talk to you.
As always, as always. You know, I've noticed with this show of mine, it becomes autobiographical at times, and the tapestry of my life is extraordinary with the guests. My interaction with the Begley family actually began in 1968 when I was flying on an airplane from Toronto to Los Angeles, and your dad was on the plane with your little sister Maureen.
Correct.
And
yes.
We got to talking, and he looked at me. He said, "How old are you?" And I told him. He said, "I got a boy almost your age. You guys should meet." And we didn't, and for many years. And then we finally did. And I'm just wondering, 1968, was that the year you went to Ireland with him? Was that the same year?
No, we went in 66.
Oh, you went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about looking for the Begleys in Ireland? It's one of my favorite stories.
Well, you know, I had never been, outside the country beyond Canada and Mexico at that point, 66. I had been to our closest neighbors, but I had not been to Europe or still haven't been to Asia, and I hadn't been to Africa, so it was a big deal for me. And the first place we stopped, we flew on Aer Lingus, so the first stop there was in the airport. What's the name of the airport there? I can't remember. Shannon Airport. Thank you, Charles. Shannon Airport. So we landed there. My dad rented a car, and we might have spent the first night in Dublin. At some point we were in Dublin, I remember that much. And then soon after that, we went through the countryside. We went down to the south to County Kerry, where the Begleys are from. And we went to Killorglin and Killarney. But on the way there, we stopped to see some cousins of my dad. That was the word he used. I'm going to go see some of my cousins. And we rode down a road much like the road we came on through, Tipperary, Limerick, all the towns we went through, I believe. And then we went through another area in a smaller road, and pretty soon we're on this dirt road, and he had asked directions, and he's following the directions. I went, "Where are we going? There's no houses out here." We come up to a hill, and coming from behind the hill are two men in kind of, well-worn coats, long coats, because it was a chilly morning, and these two cousins came out that were younger than my dad, but not by much. At this point, he was 67 years of age, and they were perhaps late 50s or early 60s, and they came out, "There's Mr. Begley, the film star. It's Ed Begley, the film star." And they came out from behind a hill, and going, "Where's the house?" And then as we walked further to greet them, we saw that they basically lived in the hill. They lived in the hill. By that I mean there was some, wood sticking out like a lean-to kind of a roof, and some, a bit of structure built into the hill, but it was a berm house. It was very slight on the house and large on the berm. It was, I won't call it a cave, but others might. And it was very sweet, because they had like 2 spoons and 2 cups and 2 forks and what have you. They made us some tea, and they didn't have any because there's only 2 cups. They made us, 2 of us had some tea, and we met with them for a while, and it was, I wasn't all depressed or like, "Oh my God, my poor relatives." It was kind of sweet, and they were very nice fellows. And but then I got my first taste of the Begley clan. They're not a very wealthy crowd that I come from, is the point. Real cap and spade, Tess-Wright Squire kind of people.
And your dad was what, one generation removed from them? Did his father go to America?
His father, my grandfather, came over in a boat from Ireland in the 1890s with my grandmother. My grandmother and grandfather came over in a boat, I think, left from Dingle Bay. I don't remember that part. But they certainly came over in the 1890s, and they had 1 child already married and 2 children they had in America, in Hartford, Connecticut, where they settled. My grandfather was what you call a hod carrier.
Right.
A hod is a stick that you kind of hold vertically, and on that stick are two right-angle pieces of wood, rather substantial planks, that hold either bricks or the mortar to hold those bricks together. And so that was, my grandfather did not have the more desirable job of the mason, but he was the hod carrier that brought the bricks up, or the mortar up, to the people doing the work up the scaffolding. And he did that because he was kind of a big lad and a strong lad, and so that's how we earned money. And they had very little money, to say the least.
And do you know how your dad got into well, he was a carnival barker, wasn't he, at one point?
He worked in carnivals. He ran away to join the circus, the way you heard about, when we were young boys. You got to run away and join the circus. Well, my dad did that. He left town, and he kind of ran away at age 8 or something. He very young age. He might have come back and forth a bit, but certainly by 12 he was gone for good. And he had won a Charlie Chaplin contest at a very young age, and so he got a taste for applause and success there. He had mimicked Charlie Chaplin and done it well, so he went, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to be in show business. And he worked in carnivals and circuses, and he got into vaudeville later, but he had no
What kind of act did he do you know?
He had an act, I know, part of it, I've seen a picture of it, part of it was in blackface.
Wow.
It was a different day, and that was acceptable at that time in many circles. I'm sure it wasn't.
Didn't hurt Jolson.
It wasn't acceptable in what we now know as the African American community. I'm sure they kind of went, "Oh, that's wonderful." I had encounters with people. He also belonged to the Negro Actors Guild, if you could believe such a thing. He did, because he had
NAG.
Yes, he was a member of that organization.
That's wild. Because he'd worked in cork and burnt cork?
I guess so. I don't know why. He proudly would say that as his badge of honor, but it was, a different day, and people did things like that, and I'm not sure, how many people in different parts of the city he lived in really liked it, but people pretended they liked it, and went along with it, and that's what he did. He was the first Charlie Chan on radio too.
But he had a great career in radio as well, which I guess led him to Broadway.
Yeah, but he had no success whatsoever. I won't use the word success till he was in his 40s, because he kept, trying to get into show business, and had a little bit of success in vaudeville. No, not success. He had some work in vaudeville, no success. But he worked. He went in the Navy, joined the Navy, and saw the world. And then I think went back to the Navy.
Between the wars.
Yes, he was on the boat. I think it's the USS Missouri, where they signed the armistice with Japan, because there's a picture of that one can see in different different places. And he says, "That's me, and that's the third row from the back. I'm there, and I'm on that boat when they signed it." I think he was a cook on the boat.
Well, what's extraordinary about your father's work that reflects this other life of a man who had been out there for years is this total verisimilitude of life in his work. I mean, there's a movie called On Dangerous Ground.
Yes.
The Nick Ray picture. And I remember there's a scene there where he's the lieutenant, and he's trying to tell Robert Ryan to just take it easy with the people he's beating up and stuff. But he does the entire scene in a restaurant eating. And I don't think anyone had ever actually really eaten in a scene before. And there's your dad, and it's just it's one of the most realistic scenes in movies up until that time, because he's really enjoying the food. And it's just,
he could power down the groceries, I can promise you. I ate one. But he worked at the wire mold plant in Hartford, Connecticut. He
was
a factory worker. That wire mold, before they had the kind of conduit that goes inside the wall with electrical wiring and what have you, what we now call Romex and other ways of wiring a room, all the wiring was exterior to the walls. You'd have something called wire molds. You wouldn't have just bare wires running up the wall or insulated wire running up the wall. It would go in a piece of conduit, if you will, that was, one side open that would go against the wall, and you'd put the wire in there and go up to a fan or a light switch or what have you. And he worked in that factory for quite quite a few years, and his father, my grandfather, was a dialectician and a raconteur. He did a lot of voices, so my dad kind of got that from him, but my grandfather was never in anything remotely associated with the show business.
Well, he got his first big break on Broadway when he did this play, Getaway Old Man, which William Saroyan wrote and George Abbott produced and directed, and it was Saroyan's revenge on Louis B. Mayer, whom he despised. Right. And one would have thought, hey, this is it, but unfortunately the play only ran 13 performances. I've never read it. Do you have a copy of it?
I hope I do, in the trunk of my dad's stuff. I saved some key things. I gave a lot of stuff away because it was sitting for so long. I'm going, why do I want this stuff sitting here? It should be given to, I think it was the University of Wyoming, asked me for it shortly after his death, and so I sent them boxes and boxes of stuff. The Motion Picture Academy, I knew, would have stuff out there that would be in circulation, be viewed and used by many, so I gave them a lot of stuff. This is in the 70s.
Mm-hmm. But I still remember going into your garage, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, and that trunk that he toured in Advise and Consent was still there, and it had the poster on the side of it and everything. It was amazing.
Yeah, all those labels and what have you from being on different trains, because that's the way you got around in those days. You had a trunk, and you had a valet. You had a valet that worked for Hilliard Alexander, this wonderful man, and they would go and put the trunk on the train, and he'd go to Boston. I went to Boston with him for, I guess it was Advise and Consent. I went to Washington, D.C. with him. I went to Baltimore with him, when I would have some, like spring break or something, what we now call spring break, Easter vacation, that coincided with, this different time in a play, and I would go with him, and boy, talk about a good time. I was in heaven to go, on the road with my dad, staying in different hotels and riding on trains.
Now, did you go? I remember you had told me that people who would come to see him in plays would say, well, if you're ever in so-and-so, come and see us. And didn't he actually go and stay with them sometimes?
He did.
Did you go with on any of those trips?
Lou Ramp was his name.
Yes.
Lou Ramp was a guy that greatly resembled my dad. He went backstage at some point and said, hey, cousin, good to meet you. Ha ha. They had a laugh. And he says, if you ever want to come and stay with us in Grass Lakes, Michigan, you're welcome. And Lou Ramp had some money. He seemed to be kind of wealthy. I think he had some oil wells. I don't know if they were in Michigan. They might have been elsewhere. He certainly had a ranch, I don't know if it was a chinchilla ranch or something, or some kind of he was a furrier as well, and he had all these different businesses, and we drove cross-country. That's the way you got cross-country back then. You either took the train or drove, and one of the times we drove, we stopped in Grass Lakes, Michigan, and stayed with this guy, Lou Ramp. And it was, he had a big spread. It was kind of impressive, because we always lived in a modest home, a home about the size of my home now, a 1,600-square-foot home. And so we went to this kind of fat house in Grass Lakes, Michigan. I went, wow, my dad knows some fancy people.
Your dad was an extraordinary character. On Turner Classic Movies, they have these little snippets of actors talking about the films they were in, and Klugman is on a lot, talking about 12 Angry Men. And he says, his favorite of all the 11 other men was Ed Begley, who always had these nieces who would appear on the set.
Oh, yes. Jack told me that as well.
And Jack said to your dad finally, because there was just an endless parade, he said, Ed, how many nieces do you have? And your dad said, as many as I can.
That was my dad. He was a bad man in the 50s and 60s, apparently.
Well, a bad man in the 40s, too, probably.
In the 40s, exactly, yeah.
But he finally made it on Broadway, with as did Arthur Miller with the play All My Sons, and I think this is what really turned his career around for him and brought him out to Hollywood.
Yeah, All My Sons.
And you were born out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found a wonderful article that Tony Randall wrote.
Mm-hmm.
It was an obituary, if you will, that Tony Randall wrote for, I think, for a New York paper, maybe the New York Times. In the back it has New York Shakespeare Festival on Lafayette Street. The Boys in the Band is a play that's running at that time. I'm looking at the back. And on the front, Ed Begley, 1901 to 1970. So it was In Obit, I think that they asked Tony Randall to write for my dad.
Have you got it in your hand?
I have it in my hand.
Read it, please.
Ed Begley was a powerful actor of great simplicity and truth. He was something of a true primitive. By that I mean that he was self-taught. Indeed, he did not come to New York to become an actor until he was past 40. So far as I know, he received no artistic instruction of any kind. But unlike many primitives, he was neither provincial nor tricky. His instincts led him only on the narrow path most people find only after their taste has been refined. He had a wonderful voice, one of the richest I have ever heard, and he never exhibited his voice or used it for its own sake, to show off, so that audiences probably never noted how beautiful it was, nor do I remember any critic ever mentioning it. I first became aware of him in the 1947 movie Boomerang, which he gave a remarkable portrait of joviality, venality, and fear. As in all good acting, these qualities were not acted, indicated, demonstrated. They were simply there. But it was in Arthur Miller's All My Sons that he first showed the American theater what he was made of, and he was a star from then on. One of my great memories, which will stay with me until I die, was that second act curtain, the guilt, the admission, the awful truth, as his son, Arthur Kennedy, equally unforgettable, flayed him. Again, these qualities were not acted. They were horribly real. There was no applause when the curtain fell, nor did the audience get up to smoke and talk, only silence. He made us all feel as guilty as he was. Of course, it was in Inherit the Wind that he had his biggest triumph, and it was there I knew him. We dressed together for 17 months. The role, based on William Jennings Bryan, is a good one, but rather thinly written. Begley put flesh and blood and thought and feeling where there was really little more than what Walter Kerr noted as a political cartoon. I believe no one else who played this part was able to do that. All the others I saw succumbed to playing only what was written, a pompous windbag. But Begley was not pompous. With dignity and sweetness, he meant every word he said, a moment that never failed to touch me in some 600 performances, the natural goodness that shone through him as he said, "The Bible tells us that God forgives his children, and we, the children of God, should forgive each other." People seemed surprised to learn that in life he was a gay, merry soul, very funny, much given to practical jokes. He had known his roaring days and the admiration of the ladies. He had known his sad days, too, but he was not capable of bitterness. He had a wonderful energy that showed in his great blue eyes and forced him to enjoy every minute of life. Whether he willed it or not, Herman Schumlin once called him a clean-hearted Ed Begley, and that's what he was.
It's so
there you
beautiful.
Go.
Wow.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
I just got sent this. A lady just sent it to me with a picture of my dad, a lady by the name of Ms. Patty Tossey sent me this, and I'd never seen it because I was in L.A. when he died, and nobody. If he had this in a trunk somewhere, no, who would have put it? My stepmother, after she's going to put it in the trunk with the thing and then give it to me? No, I never saw this till 2 days ago, Charles. Isn't that lovely?
And how serendipitous that you have it when I call. That's wonderful.
Isn't that
That's
funny?
Great. Wow. You know, in Tony Randall's book, he tells some of these outrageous stories about the friends of his coming to visit him backstage, and they shared the dressing room, and they're yakking away to Tony, and he apparently has not introduced your dad. And finally, your father is taking off his makeup, and he turns around with outrage and said, "What is, you're ashamed that we're lovers?" And he Tony Randall is like turning every shade of scarlet, and the friends are looking at him, you know, and your father is just, you know, coming out with this fake relationship. And
right. That's great.
And I guess that was your dad's stock and trade.
He loved it. He would regularly push me or my sister or my stepmother out of a shop that if we had been, you know, shopping, buying, or window shopping somewhere. He would, as we exited the shop onto the street, he'd push us out and go, "And don't ever let me catch you shoplifting in here again." And he'd go back inside.
They want people to explain Irish humor, do they? Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing a lot of people don't know, and I'm sure you do, is that at one point in the run of Inherit the Wind, he switched roles.
He certainly did. When when Paul Muni left, he took Paul's role, that wonderful role, as wonderful as one he played before, and Melvin Douglas came in and played what had been his role. So he got to he did it over the weekend. He did, the Sunday matinee, playing the William Jennings Bryan part, and then, he did Muni's role, on Tuesday.
Now, did you see the play as a child?
Never. Oh, I wish I had.
Wow. And I remember you told me that he used to take you up to Santa Barbara to visit some old guy, and you didn't know who he was until you
had no idea. I was in the presence of greatness. Did I know it? Absolutely not.
Well, tell us who it was.
It was Paul Muni.
Yeah.
It was this couple, Paul and Bella, and they lived up in Santa Barbara, and we stopped there when we were supposed to go. We're trying to get on the road to get to San Francisco, and we'd occasionally stop at the Miramar, and we'd stop at this other house, and who's this guy, and I don't know who he is, and, oh, can we just get going, Dad, and, and then a few years thereafter, I started watching some films I needed to see as an aficionado of film, and I see Fugitive from a Chain Gang, a few other movies, Louis Pasteur, and I go, my God, that's Paul Muni. That's that guy I used to see in Santa Barbara. Because I had never seen A Hair at the Wind on Broadway. I didn't know who this guy Paul was. And
did you finally did you see your dad in the revival of Our Town?
I did not.
So you never saw your dad on stage?
I saw him in I saw in Advise and Consent, Look Homeward Angel. What else?
Did he take over in Look Homeward Angel?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, my God, I didn't realize that.
Who originated the role?
Hugh Griffith,
that's
wonderful.
Right.
Yes. Wow. I had no idea. I wonder if Tony did it with him or if he had left by that time. Do you know if your dad did it with Tony Perkins, the Look Homeward Angel?
Yes, he did. He definitely did.
Wow.
There's a playbill that proves that.
How fantastic. And what I didn't realize until recently was, because I wonder if your dad went back on stage after he'd made it in movies, but he did, because he did the year before he died. He did that Our Town with Henry Fonda. And
he also did that play, Zelda, I think it was called, with, and I just learned that this young man was in it. Robbie Benson was in the play. He just divulged to me 72 hours ago, I work with your dad. I'm going, what did Robbie Benson work with my dad in? I did a play with him on Broadway called Zelda, and I remember that play very well. I never saw it, but I remember.
Was it about Zelda Fitzgerald, or was it?
I don't know.
Wow.
I never saw the play. I never read it.
Amazing. Now, how did you get your SAG card?
I got my SAG card. There's a bit of history before that. From the earliest age, I wanted to be an actor, and I begged my dad, I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor. Help me be an actor. Like, he's going to make a call, and they're going to give me a part. It doesn't work like that. I learned that when I had kids of my own. You can't just make a call and get your child a part. It's hard enough to get your child an audition. So he got me a few auditions starting at age 10 or 11. I went out in auditions. I got nothing, of course, because I had no training. There was no drama club at the school I went to. There was no theater arts program, these different parochial schools I went to out in Long Island. So I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought I was kind of charming and wonderful, and get me a wagon train, get me a Perry Mason. Come on, I want to work. And so I went out in all these parts and literally read for a wagon train. And it's like, yeah, thank you so much. Tell your dad I said hi. I can only imagine what they said after the door closed. I had no idea what I was doing. And then my dad or someone helped me get, I don't remember who, probably my dad, into this class, this acting class. Paul Kent, this actor, had an acting class on Melrose, and I started going there.
For kids?
And I, started to do a little bit of work, and I don't think it's any coincidence. I got a job within like 6 months of that because I had some training. I went up for My Three Sons and read for it, and then got it.
What I didn't realize, your dad guested on My Three Sons, but not the same episode, right? No,
but I'm sure he called up Freddie de Cordova or someone there, and said, "Look, my kid, can he come in and do the thing and da-da-da? And if he's no good at all, you shove him right out the door. But if he can do it, I'd sure appreciate it." So they gave me the part. My dad, I'm sure, had a major hand in that.
So how old were you with that first gig?
I was 17.
Oh, you were a late starter too then.
Yeah.
Considering, how you wanted to do this. Now, you came back out to California because you were born here, but then you went back east, and you went to schools back there. And then how old were you when you came back again? 10, 11?
We moved back here permanently when I was 13.
And you had a very different accent, didn't you?
Yeah, I had, gone to grade school in Merrick, New York, so I talked like this. I was from Merrick, the South Shore of Long Island.
And did they make fun of you?
Oh, boy. I was an albino with big, thick, glasses and a New York accent. I couldn't change the albino, and I didn't know I could change the glasses. And so I went, what can I change here? I'll my accent. So I started talking like, California, the sound of nowhere.
And then you were out there for years as a journeyman actor, and it was rough going for times there. I know.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when I think about it, even from 1967 to 1970, I didn't work much as an actor. I worked more as a cameraman. But from 1970 on, once James Brooks and Gene Reynolds gave me, about 6 or 7 episodes in Room 222, I was then kind of a working actor from that point on, from 1970 on, working a lot more than any of my friends at Valley College, that's for sure.
When did you and Michael Richards have the comedy team?
We started becoming friends in 1968. Then in 1969, we decided to go up one night at the Troubadour at a hoot night and do some outlandish comedy, improv, stuff with these crazy costumes on. Our names were Vladimir and Estragon. You can imagine where we got that from.
Oh, yes.
And so we were Vladimir and Estragon, and we went on stage at the Troubadour to, huge laughs and applause. We went, wow, we've got this figured out. And then Doug Weston wanted to manage us, the guy who owned and ran the Troubadour, and we had all this activity. But, then we came back another night when we didn't have all our friends there and the confidence of that, and then our clackers to start the laughter and applause, and we, not exactly tanked, but we didn't do as well. And so, we did that for a while. We'd go to the Ice House and do a gig, like literally at midnight when the guy was sweeping up. There'd be like 1 or 2 people in the audience. It was that kind of a thing. My dad came to see that one night. I said, Dad, what did you think? Oh, boy, you'd be fine, but you got to hear what you're saying. I couldn't hear what the hell you're saying. And he was right. It was, we were kind of mumbling a bit, and,
Well, I remember the night, the story when you put the police uniform on. And
yeah.
Going to make your entrance in the street?
I had played a club as a favor for a friend on Reseda Boulevard in the Valley, and I had my police uniform, and I decided I'd have some fun and go to the Troubadour and hang out in the bar in the police uniform. And then, because it was a Friday night, maybe I could go on stage and do a little guest thing, my cop routine, which was always a big hit, at the Troubadour. And I went outside to go next door to Tana's, and these cops saw me and arrested me for impersonating an officer. So,
and you were taken to the station?
Yeah, I spent 3 days in county jail.
Leaving Michael Richards on stage wondering why you haven't made your entrance.
Michael was in the Army at that point. I had a solo act at that point.
Oh, and my God.
So this was 1972 now. Michael went in the Army in 1970, and then he was in the Army through for a couple of years. He was over in Germany writing plays about race relations and
trains.
I'm not kidding. That's why with this whole flap, the thing that Michael went through, I don't understand this. Michael never used the N-word in his life, and he wrote plays about race relations with his African-American friend, Howard Ransom. So that was the one and only time I had heard such a rant from Michael Richards, that night on that little, video cam on that phone.
And then St. Elsewhere changed your life.
From St. Elsewhere, things got pretty easy. I became working actor, kind of, itinerant actor, journeyman, whatever, in 1970. And then 1982, when I got St. Elsewhere, life got really easy, because you're on a show like that that's so well written. Tom Fontana, Josh Brand, John Falsey, John Macias, Mark Tinker, Bruce Paltrow running the whole thing. I mean, wonderful writers. Chick Egley, Channing Gibson. I can't remember half of the brilliant writers they had. And what a cast. Ed Flanders, Bill Daniels, Bonnie Bartlett. Christina Pickles, Denzel Washington, David Morse,
Howie
Mandel, Norman Lloyd.
And also, I think that was the first show where movie stars came and did arcs. I remember Alan Arkin was on that.
Alan Arkin had come and do an arc. Piper Laurie had come and do an arc. We had, and then people that I hadn't heard of. Wow, this guy's good. He's going somewhere. A guy, Ray Liotta, would come and do, a couple of episodes.
And even people on the way out. I remember Dean Jagger. You told me how sad it was when he came.
Yeah.
Wow.
But a sweet man. It was great to work with Dean.
And the embarrassment of your first Emmy nomination, the award. Tell us that story.
I don't remember I remember I got nominated, but what's the embarrassing part? I don't remember.
Well, they opened the envelope and they said,
yeah. I forgot that. Very good. They opened the envelope, and it was just kind of a teaser that if I'd thought about it, I would have been prepared for. And the winner, Best Supporting Actor in a Dramatic Role, is Edward James. So far, so good. That's my name, Edward James Begley. Oh, no, Edward James Olmos.
But were you out of the seat at all, or you?
No, I didn't do a Stephen Boyd.
What did Stephen Boyd do?
That's in a movie.
Oh, in the Oscar with Ed Begley. That's right. Your dad was.
He starts to get up out of his seat in the movie, and then realizes he has not won, and he sits back down and starts to clap.
Well, my mind was racing because I tried to think who was another actor named Stephen, because the famous story about that was poor Frank Capra, the year he was first nominated, and Will Rogers opened the envelope, and he had a big smile. He said, "Come on up, Frank." And Frank Capra is halfway to the stage when Will Rogers goes, "Frank Lloyd."
Oh, boy.
And Frank Capra said it was the longest walk back of his life.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness. And then the film work started coming in too. I remember you driving up to the mountains somewhere to get the script of The Accidental Tourist.
I think I did. Yeah.
And then She-Devil and it's been an extraordinary ride for you.
It has been. It's been pretty good.
But I think what's amazing is I think your acting career has finally been eclipsed by your environmental work and the people's recognition of you. How did you first get into this?
It started in 1970 with the first Earth Day, but that was the catalyst for change, I suppose, that day. But what led up to it was quite powerful. What led up to it was growing up with my dad, Ed Begley Sr., who was, never one to use the word environmentalist, but he was one. He turned off the lights and turned off the water and saved string and tinfoil, and he was the son of Irish immigrants. He had lived through the Great Depression. And he got me in Boy Scouts, so I got to see nature up close and personal, and I liked it and thought it was worth protecting. And that was my positive influence. And he died a few days before the first Earth Day. So I wanted to do something to honor him, if nothing else. But the other influence was powerful, too. The negative influence of living at that point 2 decades in smoggy L.A., with that horrible choking smog. I went, Earth Day, sign me up. This is crazy. People shouldn't live like this. And I bought an electric car, and I started recycling and composting and doing everything I could.
How easy or difficult was it to get an electric car in 1970?
I just looked in the yellow pages. I didn't look thinking I was going to find one. I looked so I could just kind of satisfy my deceased father, who was saying, "Oh, you didn't even try, boy. You didn't look in the yellow pages." Okay, I'll look in the yellow pages. I know they don't sell any electric cars, but at least I can say to anybody that asks me, or to my dad who's talking to me from the grave, I tried. I looked at, what the hell? Electric cars in Reseda? Some guy named Dutch was selling electric cars in Reseda. And so I went over there and I bought one for $950. I was the only person under 65, I think, that ever bought one from them, because they're for retirement communities. They went like 20 miles an hour, but they had a California license plate, brake lights, windshield wiper, horn, and it was street legal, and I drove it around. And I realized it was much cheaper than buying gasoline, and it was much, much cheaper to maintain than a regular car.
Amazing. And I remember, when I came back from Europe, I guess it was 1989 or 90, you had just divorced and you had the house that you have now, and you were taking me through it and showing me all of these amazing, the solar panels on the roof, which you had in Ojai, I remember, for the pool.
Yeah.
But also the batteries and everything. And I just thought, what's happened to Ed? I said, he's gone mad. And yet, here we are 21 years later, and you were John the Baptist. I mean, you were paving the way, because everything that you were doing then, people are finally getting it. And, I mean, people come to you. I remember walking into your house one day, and Leonardo DiCaprio was there because you were showing him, how to do different things. And you must have a great degree of satisfaction about what has happened, even though we haven't got the whole country turned around. But it's just amazing.
Yeah, we've made some progress, from 1970 to date. Even though we have 4 times the cars in L.A. and millions more people, we've cut the smog in half, proving that we can do it, with good technology, with the catalytic converter or the combined cycle gas turbine or the spray paint booth. All those different things help clean up the smog in L.A., and we have to stick with that stuff and do many of the other things that we know can clean up the smog. It's really good business, because there's healthcare costs associated with pollution. There's, the cost of going to foreign lands to defend the oil. There's Superfund site cleanup. There's lots of costs in not doing anything. So we have to, dive in and do the stuff that we know is ultimately going to save us money.
Are you still in the Begley's Best business?
No, I got out of that. I stopped making it about 2 years ago because I thought I was going to get out of it, and I certainly did. I stopped it about last summer.
Well, but is someone else still doing it, though, or are we just...
No, I don't want to be in the business of shipping liquid around the country. It's fine.
Especially on planes.
Yeah, if you can... Well, it's all UPS ground. None of it's going in planes. But still, it's expensive to ship liquid around the country. What you want to do, and what I'd hope to do, is just continue to grow it to the point where you can start bottling it in, New Jersey and Atlanta and Chicago and Seattle, or, different parts of the country, so you're not shipping water around so much of the country, and just, blend it and mix it. That's the way Procter & Gamble and Heineken and Coca-Cola and everybody makes money. They don't bottle it all in Atlanta. They bottle it so they're not shipping water around the country so much. They bottle it in local places. Otherwise, shipping will eat you alive. Liquid weighs 8 pounds a gallon.
And you and Rochelle, with Living with Ed, your TV series, is it going to be coming back at all?
No more Living with Ed. We stopped doing that over a year and a half ago, nearly 2 years ago now, and they finally gave us the official word about 6 months ago that there would not be any more Living with Ed. And it was fun. I was in no mood to do a reality show, but the prize was so great of kind of spreading the environmental word with the help of this show, this reality show. I was happy to do it, and we did it for a while and had some great success with it, and now it's time to move on and do other things.
And you've got a pilot now for a new series.
Yeah, pilot at NBC for a show called Brave New World, a Peter Tolan show, very funny show, and I'm working on that as we speak.
And the lecture circuit?
Still doing a lot of speaking engagements and go around the country and talk about the environment and do some green product endorsement. And, it's a busy life.
Well, I think your dad would be very proud of your work, both as an environmentalist and as an actor.
Thank you, Charles. I hope so. I sure loved him.
Thanks, Ed. I really enjoyed this.
Me too.
Okay. Speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.